Welcome to Healthy Trust with holistic nutritionist and emotional eating coach Lily Aronin. This class on Bitachon, Trust in God, follows the classic workgate of trust. Walk with us as we enter, as Davis Psalms called it, the Tower of Divine Protectio, and pull up a seat.
Get home. That was fun. It was super, super quiet. And we finally went out to the grocery store, and then it was crazy. But again, Bitachon, sorry, Hashem made sure that I had already checked out of the grocery store, left my card and took my receipt, and then literally, I pulled into the different yeshuv that's not mine, and there's a shul right there with a big sign, Miklat this way, and I went in, and it was no big deal. So again, even though there's literally, that's a miracle of miracles to say this war is slightly inconvenient. And also, I need to regulate a little bit because my teenage girls were like, wah, 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 before I walked into this room because everybody's home. So you can breathe with me, but I need to be depressed.
I'm not hearing you so well. Is it just me? I'm not hearing you very well.
Can everybody else hear me okay? Everyone else is hearing me okay.
You're kind of garbled.
Am I? Interesting. Okay. Let's change to my other camera. Is this better? Is this more clear?
Yes, much better.
Great. This is the camera from the webcam versus the microphone from the laptop. Good to know. It's a new laptop. You should have a better microphone. Okay. So, having a deep coffee. Let's get started. We are on chapter 2, page 46 in the Shaar HaBitachon. And let's see. Okay. Everyone can see me. Excellent. Good. Okay, so we're on chapter 2. We're getting started today. And this is my favorite part. If we're going to memorize anything from the Shaar HaBitachon, chapter 2, I think, is super, super important. So we have the 7 qualities of trustworthiness. These are the 7 factors that enable a person to trust in another creation. And every time we're measuring other people in our life and we feel disappointed and we feel let down or we feel like they're not living up to our expectations, we need to remember that only God can actually fulfill these 7 qualities. But as a human being, divinely designed to trust and rely on God and to trust and rely on something, we are going to look and apply these 7 qualities of trust to every person in our life. It's how we're going to assess everybody: teachers, mentors, coaches, friends, spouses, children. It's literally the code that we were designed with to look for, right? And so it's something to keep in mind when we're disappointed because something didn't live up to our expectations. And remember that really only Hashem has the power to truly be trustworthy. And everybody else, whether they meet our expectations or we get the outcomes we want or we don't, or they hurt us or they're helping us, they are agents of Hashem's help or redirection and protection. So we need to keep that in mind because I'm telling you, because I'm right in the boat with you, not on a pedestal here, that it's really hard because we want to be able to trust people. You can't have a society without trust, but we have to understand that there are limits to another human being's ability to really be perfect in their trust. They are fallible. They are subject to circumstances. They are subject to their emotional availability and their resourcefulness. So I think that's really important. Before we actually read them, does anybody have anything they want to say or anything they're thinking on this that they want to kind of set an intention for today's class?
Yeah, I do. I want to set an intention to absorb this teaching to help prepare a a very a silly a silly situation, but it could be significant. And you know, if left to if I don't like recognize uh I don't even know what to say. I don't even know how to say this, but um
Okay.
yeah, just I want to
So
send
you
the
know it, you have it in your mind as your
yeah,
intention.
yeah,
And, you know, sometimes words fail the complexity of our thoughts and feelings. And that's okay.
yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So the first factor, a friend must possess the character traits of compassion, empathy, and love. Knowing that a friend has compassion and empathy for him, a person will place his trust in his friend and have peace in mind due to his reliance on him regarding all matters with which he troubles his friend. A person who knows that his friend really truly cares will feel confident that his friend will fulfill any request asked of him. However, compassion alone is not enough to create an trust in a person we care about. So what's the first thing we're looking for when we're assessing if somebody is trustworthy, right? We're looking for compassion. We're looking for empathy. Because if I'm going to share my trouble with you and I'm going to rely on you, I want to know that you hear me, see me, feel me, that you feel empathy and compassion for me. Because if you don't do that, then we don't have any connection at all. And there's no way that you're reliable. Number two, though, it's not quite enough, right? Because not only does the person have to know that his friend loves him, he has to also know that his friend will not ignore him, nor will his friend become lax in fulfilling his wishes. Rather, the letter knows that his friend has decided to fill his wishes and make every effort to do so. We all have so many friends and family members right now in the world who are being affected by this situation or affected by completely unrelated stresses in their life. And we want to be there for them, but we're distracted with our own situations. And they want to be there for us, and they're distracted with their own situations. And you want to reach out to someone for help, but you might feel unsure. And I hear this from a lot of people, especially when big things are happening in a community or in the world. They're like, I can't bother her because she's dealing with her own stuff. There's no way I can make that request to ask her to commit to drop what she's doing, what she's dealing with to help me. How could that person be trustworthy to be able to not prioritize what's going on for them in their life over helping me? And something really interesting on this that sat with me was when I was learning the book Uncovered, which is a really great book written by Nechama Barash on the laws around women, women in the Torah, and brings in all these different interesting sources as a Talmudic female scholar. And one of the things she said is, why does the son have the obligation to care for the elderly parents and not the daughter? Because according to halacha, the daughter's first obligation is to her own new husband and family. And the son is still always materially and emotionally responsible for the welfare of the parents. The daughter is responsible to go visit. The daughter is responsible to maintain an emotional connection. But who should be on call is actually the son's responsibility. And as an oldest daughter, I was feeling very like I'm so far away and I can't be there and I can't be there and I can't do this and I can't do this. And it really clarified things for me because there is this pull, and I see it in a lot of my female friends who are really the main caregiver for their parents, this tremendous stress that they feel when they are the one trying to balance their children's needs and the needs of their aging parent as the main caregiver. And I really thank Hashem so much that my brother is there close to my dad and able to be that main first point person. And I don't take it for granted, but it really is, there's a difference, right? When you have a friend who needs you, it's hard to balance the needs of the people right in front of you. And what if the boy siblings don't show up? So then she shows up. Like I said, I have many, many friends who are the main caregivers of their parents, who have brothers. But we're talking about a halachic responsibility, and then we're talking about real life, right? You're the main caregiver, absolutely. And it's a tremendous privilege, but a tremendous stress. It's a tremendous stress when you're balancing it against the needs of your intimate family. And so that stress is, in an ideal world, which we don't live in always, not ours. And it's something that also we can be compassionate and empathetic with ourselves if you find yourself in that position, to say, you know what, Hashem, I need your extra help here because this isn't mine. You know, this isn't my responsibility, but it is my responsibility to, there's a great line, you know, this idea, I'm the man. So everybody, man or woman, has the responsibility to be the man when there's no man. So like if there's no man to make Kiddush, it's the woman's responsibility to man up and be the man, right? If there's no one else to take care of the parents, you got to do it. Someone's got to do it. However, it's not fulfilling the same obligation that would be on you. So the second someone else would be available, it would be perfectly good to pass it off or delegate that. So it's really, really, I think, beautiful to also know that Hashem, who designed the world, designed our world in a way that in an ideal situation where other people show up how they're supposed to, that this wouldn't be that specific conflict wouldn't be ours. But again, you could have a family where there's all daughters. And I see this as like a topic that's really, really powerful here in the group, probably also with all of our ages. And the life situation that we're all in, of being in that sandwich space. Thank God. Okay. So for all of the above is not clear. He will be able to trust his friend completely. We're at the top of 47, because he knows that his friend may ignore him and become lax in fulfilling his wishes. Only when the friend he is trusting possesses both qualities, great compassion for him and attentiveness to all his matters, will he be able to rely on him with any doubt. Now, we love to think that as mothers, maybe we do this, like maybe we have such great compassion for our children and we're really attentive to them and all their matters, and for sure when they're babies. But as they get older, and especially if you have multiple children, you know, sometimes the baby's going to cry for 5 minutes while you're finishing, you know, nursing another child or wiping butts or whatever else it is that you're doing, or you're cooking dinner and someone else is calling you on the phone and this friend. So already we can see how in the role of the most loving, compassionate, phenomenal caregiver, a human being is already going to be pretty limited. And this sense of trust, when it says like, can you trust me? Or some people say I have trust issues. Do they have trust issues or do they have acceptance issues? Because maybe they're the only ones really being honest about how much to really trust in another person. And the problem comes with the acceptance that behind that person is Hashem. And behind that person is the force, the unifying force of the universe, God, who controls all things and who is trustworthy. And I think for myself, when I feel disappointed or let down or not trusted or I can't trust, it's because I forgot that. I forgot that the person in front of me is a conduit for the real love and affection. And if I'm looking for it from this person, I need to open my eyes and say, Hashem is giving it to me, but he might not be giving it through this person right now. He might be giving it through that. He might be giving it through this. He might be giving it in infinite amount of ways, but I want it from that person because I want that person to be trustworthy to me. But that person is limited, and they can only be trustworthy to the point that they can be trustworthy to their own limitations of circumstances, capabilities, time of day, year, cycle, right? Who knows? Okay. Anybody have a comment they want to make on those first two before I continue? I don't want to rush anybody. I want to let it sink in, but I also don't want to force anybody to comment.
I was just curious about what you said about that it's the son's responsibility more than the daughter's. Is there a source for that?
Yes, it's straight from the Talmud. And I can try to take a picture of like, but you can find it in the book Uncovered by Nechama Barash, but
Uncovered.
It's direct quote straight from the Talmud that one of the things that women are, you know, not obligated in is the kavod of horim, like in terms of their everyday care. after they're married, but they are obligated to visit, and it's like a whole financial obligation on the husband to make sure that she visits at least once a year or at least every this many months, that he can't withhold that from her. So it's really interesting. Uncovered is in English. Yes, they have an English and a Hebrew. I read it in English. It's an excellent book about halacha pertaining to women, written by women, going through all the sources and kind of also dealing with sometimes the language or tone of men talking to men long time ago that isn't as pleasant for women to hear, and explaining why and how things came to be and what Talmudic rules were used to create this law, and bringing in also minority opinions that disagree with some of the things that are most controversial about older things today. It's really interesting. She's a well-known scholar in Israel. She teaches in many women's programs here. The third factor: the person being trusted must be so strong that he will not be won over by others who try to oppose him regarding the matter that he wishes to achieve. Nothing will stop him from fulfilling the request of the one who is trusting in him. For if he is weak, the trust in him cannot be complete, despite the clear compassion and attentiveness. Why? Because there are many situations in which he will be lacking the means with which to fulfill the wants of the person trusting in him. Only when the above three qualities are combined and are present in a friend will it be appropriate for a person to place his trust in him. There could be people who say, you shouldn't do that. You don't need to do that. You could see it on Instagram, a video telling you how you really shouldn't be doing that for your spouse or your kid. There's all these things that could influence you to stop doing something that someone else wants. That would be a loving act to them because it's in their best interest, because of all kinds of reasons that we have of why we don't do things. It could be that we said we'd pick somebody up, but all of a sudden we don't have a car and we're not going to pay that much money to take a taxi. They could pay them that much money to take a taxi. They could take a bus. I mean, we would have if we could have, but we can't. A million ways in which this shows up in our everyday lives. And yet, we all want to trust so much. And we want to be trustworthy so much because we are created in God's likeness. And so we want to be givers like God is a giver. And especially as women who create life the way God creates life, as his copy, as a vessel to be a partner in that, we want to be trustworthy to our kids. But when we read these things, we can see how our kids shouldn't trust in us that we're going to do everything for them, because we are going to mess up and we are going to have conflicting needs and conflicting priorities, sometimes especially as they get older and they're more independent. But their trust in Hashem is never going to be misplaced. However, even if our friend cares, we're on number 4, bottom of page 47. Even if the person cares, is diligent, shows the ability to overcome any obstacle, he may not know what's really in the other person's best interest. It is therefore necessary that in addition to possessing the above 3 qualities, he also knows what's in your best interest. This is something that I think has come with the more and longer I coach as a health professional. The more and more humble I am, and the more and more I hedge sometimes and wait and see and try something smaller and get a little bit more feedback, a little bit more interaction with how is this actually working for this person, instead of as much believing in the rules and the more clear didactic approaches, because you just see that as much as you think you know, you don't really know everything that you think you do. And there are so many things behind the scenes that you can't possibly take into account, to step softly and listen more. And I think it's just something that as parents and as professionals that we all need to do, because we're not God. And it's something that where I used to feel like it has to be my way. Sometimes I still think it should be my way. But if it's not going my way, I really try to say, okay, Hashem, everything I see in front of me says that this is what needs to happen. But this is stopping it from happening, and this is stopping it from happening. And I don't think I should be super aggressive here to force the way I think this should happen. If you want me to, give me a sign and I will do that. But I can leave this in your hands. And if you're telling me that we're going to have to take the longer, short road, as we say, to get to this point, then that's what we're going to have to do, because I don't know everything. So even though I think this is the right path, and I'm being clear and direct and saying this is the way I think we should go and this is why, I don't get agreement around something that's not in my control, then in the end, I have to be very careful and how much, right? I'm going to be forceful.
That's why you're that's why you're safe. And that's why there are so many healers out there that, tout being a healer, claim they're healers, and may be in their field. But if you don't feel like the person is safe, that they're just pushing their agenda constantly, I'm not interested. I'm not interested.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right.
It's very important. And I think it's something that you sometimes then question yourself on, because like you said, the internet is full of people who are looking very successful, who are 100% positive that they know exactly what you should do about everything. But, but really, nobody knows you like you know you. And I could understand the science of it, but how that's going to interact for you is really going to be different for each person, and for each person in every season of their life, and in every time, every sivu. And so really it's Hashem that we need to trust, that he's aligning things, and that even if it's going to take longer, and even if we have to go slower, or we have to go backwards to go forwards, that there is an intelligent design here, and that there's an intelligent, active participant, coordinator of this show. Okay. You want to hear something funny? Should I just tell you? Okay, I'm not funny as a person, according to my own family. I'm not funny at all, but I found this to be very funny, so I'm going to share it because you guys are my people, so maybe you'll think it's funny. So I was thinking today on my walk, I was listening to a Bitachon class that I listen to, and like wondering if there's going to be a siren, and I was so grateful that like we only had one last night, and I got like 6 uninterrupted hours of sleep, and I'm like, right, they always talk about Mashiach being birthed and the birth pangs, and like those I feel like were like, already happened. But now nobody told us that we're going to have to nurse this baby. And we're going to have to bring Mashiach up. And now we're going to get woken up in the middle of the night, and like every 3 hours, and randomly be stopping and dropping everything we're doing to work on our Bitachon and Hashem, and to like earn Mashiach all the time, like nursing a baby. And that level of exhaustion that you see on everyone's faces is like, everybody is being a parent to a newborn right now. And I thought that was hysterical and made me laugh. And now every time I hear a siren, I'm like, oh, the baby needs to nurse, time to, right? Like, and I found this very funny. So you can tell me if I'm totally
Bravo,
crazy.
very funny, totally. I feel that way because
I was hysterical.
Well, I have mine, set to Murray's neighborhood. So, as I have been sleeping on the couch, and Murray's told Michael he's worried about me because I've been put in the doghouse. Because Michael's like, and Michael referred to it. He said, it's just like breastfeeding. He said, there was no point in me ever getting up, but you were ticked at me that I wouldn't get up because you wanted me to suffer the way you had got to suffer. But he was like, all 3 kids, he was like, why would I get up? I can't do anything. So he feels the same about the sirens. And I said, well, I wouldn't be able to sleep if I didn't know when Murray gets in and out and he texts me and we do this thing. And I sleep better, even though I'm getting up with the sirens, than if I wasn't, because I would be in the place of mother worry. But yes, my husband feels totally comfortable with, it's your job, just like breastfeeding. So I think you're totally right. I'm going to tell him when we get off the call, and
Right.
I think he will completely agree with you and think it's funny.
I think it's funny.
Thank
you. I still don't have terrible delivery, but we forgive that because we understand the idea behind it anyway. The third factor, the person being trusted must be so strong. We read that, okay. The fourth factor, the one who is trusted knows which things will be of true benefit to the one who is trusting in him, and that which is good for the trusting one will not be hidden from him, knowing what is for his benefit in concealed matters and in the revealed matters. And he knows how to create a situation that will be for his good. So footnote in the bottom, concealed versus revealed. What does that mean? A person who not only knows what is visibly good, but can also see the consequences of future decisions. For example, a king might promote a confidant to the rank of commander in his army, and such a move might enhance the chance that the latter will be taken prisoner by the enemy. For true trust, a person must have faith in the one he is trusting that the latter is fully aware of all consequences to the decision being made on his behalf. And again, only God can do that. Only God can do that. We can't do that with all of our best possible intentions. For if a friend does not know all this, then the person trusting him will lack the peace of mind to rely upon him. And only when these four qualities come together in the friend who is being trusted, knowledge of what will benefit you, the ability to help, active attentiveness, and compassion, will he trust in a friend be strengthened without any doubt. And people who walk around not feeling like God is intimately involved in the everyday tiny things of their life doesn't really trust, because they're not feeling God's attentiveness. They're not feeling like God's really there with them, which is why, as annoying and inconvenient and scary and complicated as this whole situation of bringing Mashiach seems to be, we can see where it is actively training us in Bitachon. Actively training us in Bitachon. Not only that, but every time that you have a startle, right? Like you get scared, okay, about anything, and you have a fight or flight or appease or freeze response, there's energy stored in the body, stored in the tissue, stored in your muscles, stored in your brain, right? And they say that, like, if you don't release it, if you don't find ways to process those feelings or process those nervous impulses, then they could make you sick. But when you process them, you create feelings of bliss. When you process them, you create tremendous positive change and healing and transformation in the world and enlightenment. And so it's something to think about when we're not in that moment, because when we're in that moment, we just feel the heaviness of all the stuff stuck in our body. But looking back and looking forward, anticipating more of the same, we can be like, okay, when this feels heavy and stuck, it is heavy and it is stuck. But when I unlock it, if I go and I get resourced and I find the keys, I can unlock it into tremendous potential. Okay. Five. And this is what I tell myself right now, seeing my kids like have all their different issues going on. Like, this is all going to turn into tremendous energy release and positive potential to come. And in the meantime, how can I be resourced and how can they be resourced to have as many things going on as possible to protect and to make sure that we're all capable of that healing in the right time, in the right moment as things go. The author now continues by saying that in addition to the above qualities, a person must be under the exclusive care of the one he trusts for all his needs. Since that person is to always taken care of him, he can trust that the person will continue to do so. And this we talk about a lot as we go through the book and we review this idea that since the second the sperm and the egg were created, let alone even when they joined together to create the embryo, God has been a part of my story. He's the one who made sure that I wasn't born with any number of birth defects, right? And any number of things. And he has taken care of me and made sure that I was nursed and made sure that I had food and made sure that I had air and made sure I had everything that I needed to get to the point where I am in this present moment, on this call, in this class, in this time in history. Why should I assume that he's going to stop now? And yet we feel fear come up. But what if I don't have what I need later? What if when I retire? What if 5 years from now? What if 2 years from now? What is going to happen if my kids don't go back to school after Pesach? What is going to happen? Okay, I don't know. But if I'm okay today, I need to trust that in the future I will also be okay. Because even though I've had challenges and obstacles in my life to this point, he's never abandoned me. Why would he abandon me now? He was with him in the days of his infancy, in his mother's womb, in childhood, in youth, in adulthood, in old age, until the very end of his days. And when all of this is clear to the trusting person, surely this will lead him to resting his mind upon this friend and relying on him to be his support, due to the good that friend has done to him in the past. And as a result of the benefits the person has already received and is receiving even now in this present moment. All this will surely lead us to have strength and trust in this friend. And isn't it beautiful how we think how this friend is really Hashem, like this friend? But it is not enough, number 6, that even that this person has been cared for exclusive by another until now. Because what if somebody interferes and causes him harm and then he's not going to be available to help us? Only when that other person is the sole individual with the ability to do good or bad to anyone, anything, at all times, everywhere, throughout the span of history, can we fully trust. The 6th factor, the person who has trust must be completely in the hands of the one he trusts. And this goes to how we started the call today, this idea that we need to feel that really everybody in our life, and I'm saying this to myself, I need this reminder every single day, cannot harm us, cannot help us, cannot do good to us, cannot do bad to us on his own. They cannot protect us. Just like a servant who is tied up and in prison is completely under the jurisdiction of the master, no one else can help him. The person who we have trust is completely under the jurisdiction of the one he is trusting. In the manner outlined above, it will be even more appropriate for him to place his trust in this friend. And this is, I think, one of the biggest challenging things of Bitachon, is because we're surrounded by this smoke screen of circumstances and people and weather and things that change and people who change, and everything is growing and everything is changing and everything is uncertain and everything is flexible, because all of it is reflected energy from the only one, the Ein On Milvadot, Hashem. And so it feels so inconsistent. And yet, behind it is the most consistent force of energy and good in the only thing in the universe. And it's hard to keep seeing that through the smokescreen of the changing winds and feelings and emotions and circumstances and financial and emotional and global and economical that we all experience. So what's the 7th final factor? You would think this would be enough. Dayenu, right? We're almost at Pesach. Finally, the author says that this friend who is being trusted must be known to be both generous and kind, both towards those who deserve it and those who don't. For if this quality is not present in that friend, he might give up trusting him, thinking that no matter how great this other person is, I'm the problem, I'm the limiting factor, I don't deserve it, therefore he can't help me. And this is something where the fear of God point, the knowing that we need to make ourselves vessels of good. We need to make ourselves vessels of wealth. We need to make ourselves ready for those kind of relationships. We do have to do work. We have to do ishtadlut. But outside of that ishtadlut, God is capable of helping us, whether we're ready, whether we're not. Whether we made ourselves a vessel, whether we didn't. And if we can get to that level of trust, then if we need to be a vessel in order to receive it in the best way, he can help facilitate that. And maybe he can send it in a way in which we didn't need to do that, and it can happen afterwards. And I've seen this in my own life where there's the natural way things have to be. They have to go in this order, right? And then you see stories and people and things happen, and you're like, how can that happen for them completely out of order? They didn't make themselves for it. They didn't do that. They didn't do it in the right order. How did it just happen? And let's be down the chafskut and say that it's bitachon, right? That it's bitachon. And at the same time, the fact that it happens for people who are not worthy and who haven't done the work also makes us where we get the we get the reward for doing the work anyway. Because if it was clear that you only got the reward when you did the thing, then there would be no challenge to do the right thing, because it would be obvious it's always in our best interest. But this cloudiness also allows us to get even more reward when we do the right thing anyway, even though you see somebody else getting it without doing the right thing. And also to know that when maybe we're having a hard time doing the right thing, that Hashem can help us, and that we can still receive good, and that we can still be close, and we can still strive, and we can be where we are and take the next step forward. We don't have to be somewhere else in order to be worthy of good. We have to be where we are and taking steps forward, closer to Hashem. So let's go over the qualities. What does it need to be trusted? The last lines on page 49. Okay. He has to meet. Sorry. See, it's very annoying. Okay. That is an alert that there might be a siren. We sometimes get them. We sometimes don't get them. Of about 10 minutes. And that's perfect because we'll finish this up. And then I should have time to go to the safe room and come back for my next call. So exciting. See? Bitachon. Okay. So this will surely lead a person to know this about him, to trust him, and to have peace of mind as a result of his reliance on him, both when it comes to the trusting person's behavior in public and his behavior in private. In the trusting person's mind, never worrying about his needs, as well as the rest of his body and his actions, he will give himself over to this trusting person. He will accept his decrees and judge him positively in all his judgments and actions, believing that even those things that seem to be bad are really actually good. So we're going to pause here. And thoughts, your takeaway, something you're processing from today, something that resonated with you that you want to, or even your own thought that came to you in your own wisdom based on what we learned today. Anybody? Yeah, Lala.
So I'm not as good at knowing who said this or
Sure.
whatever, but it was a Torah study I was in last week. And this rabbi asked all these other rabbis what the most important thing was in the Torah. And of course they said, the Shema, and he said nice but no, and then love thy neighbor as thyself, and he said nice but no, and then another rabbi said, oh, and he was talking about like the preparations that you do for something that was very, something that's kind of boring, let's say, kashrut or whatever, and the rabbi said that's it, and it because it's having the faith. Those other things are big and airy, and I felt like as you were reading this, it started out with like the compassion and the empathy, but then as we went on, it went down to it's what you do each and every day that actually makes you build that muscle for those bigger thoughts, but you really have to give of yourself and be in relation with Hashem and others and do to build that trust. You just can't say, I trust, it really is by doing those actions, and we have such a map,
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you.
I was actually going to say the same thing in a different way, so thank you, Bella, for popping in with that. Just looking at where I am now, and honestly, I had no idea that this was going to happen. And the only way that I didn't collapse after my apartment in Yerushalayim fell through is the consistency of these shiurim and just learning Shaar HaBitachon daily. And I feel like it's really interesting because we had a group that I belong to, with international women, that all get together from time to time, give each other support. And during this war kicking off, everyone was saying like, we're supposed to all introduce ourselves and say what's been the hardest thing for me and like what's scary. And I'm just like literally racking my brain trying to think of something because I actually feel fine. And I know it's crazy because I'm running backwards and forwards to bomb shelters, and from one day to the next I didn't really know where I was going to be sleeping, or in my hotel in Yafa I didn't have a mamad or a miklat. And I just kept thinking, well, Hashem's going to take care of it. Like, if I can take care of it, I will. And if I can't, then it means Hashem's going to take care of it. And it just becomes such a logical thought to me. It's just such a logical progression. And the only way that that's there is because I've just been practicing it daily. And yeah, it's like the little practices, you think that doesn't add up, and it does. And actually, it's a way of thinking. And I see when I have encounters with people who don't have MNR yet, they're still working on it. And it's really hard, and I see how hard it is for them. And all I can think is that that's where I was a little while back, and how I realize now how far I've come from where I was even 6 months ago. Just knowing that it's all in Hashem's hands, all of it. Then it's just amazing. It's so peaceful, such a peaceful way to be. So
I'm
thanks.
so glad.
Yeah.
And we're going to end with that. And I'm going to go into my shelter.
Off you go.
Love.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's Healthy Trust class. Come back again to visit the Tower of Divine Protection every Sunday. To learn more about living a healthy life, body and soul, visit Lily Aronin at www.lilyaronin.com.